You want to help with bills? My sister Jessica's laughter cut through the tension in our parents' living room. That's cute. Maybe stick to your little online job and leave the real business to actual professionals. I sat there, my offer hanging in the air like smoke, watching my family exchange knowing glances. Mom stirred her tea, avoiding eye contact. Dad pretended to be absorbed in his newspaper, but I caught the slight smirk tugging at his lips. I'm serious, I said, keeping my voice steady. The company's struggling. I can help. Jessica stood up, smoothing her designer blazer. At 32, she was the golden child, the VP of operations at Miller and Brooks, one of the city's most prestigious consulting firms. The same firm where our father had worked for 30 years before retiring as a senior partner. Listen, Emma, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. Just because you make a few dollars selling things online doesn't mean you understand real business. This is a multi-million-dollar company we're talking about. Actually, I started, but she cut me off. No, you listen. I've worked my way up for 10 years. Dad spent his entire career there. We know what we're doing. So please stick to your little Etsy shop or whatever it is you do. Mom finally looked up. Jessica's right, dear. You should focus on finding a real job. Maybe Jessica can help you get an entry-level position somewhere. I felt my chest tighten. They had no idea, no clue about what I built over the past 5 years. To them, I was still the family disappointment, the one who quit her corporate job to play around on the internet. The company's stock has dropped 60% in the last quarter. I said quietly, your major clients are jumping ship. The board is considering restructuring. Jessica's face darkened. How do you know that? I pay attention. She laughed again, but this time it was sharp and defensive. Right, because reading some online financial news makes you an expert. God, you're still so naive. Dad finally lowered his newspaper. Emma, your sister has everything under control. Miller and Brooks has survived worse. We don't need help from someone who couldn't handle the corporate world. The words stung, but I was used to it. 5 years of dismissal, of condescending comments, of being the family joke. All because I saw the future of business while they clung to their outdated models. Fine, I said, standing up. I tried. Yes, very touching, Jessica mocked. Now can we talk about something important? Like how I'm being considered for COO. I gathered my things, knowing what was coming, the usual family celebration of Jessica's achievements, while my success remained invisible. Not that I needed their validation anymore. I had something better, knowledge. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed. A message from my assistant. The board approved the purchase. Paperwork will be ready Monday. I smiled, remembering Jessica's words. Stick to your little online job. If only they knew that my little online job had grown into next-gen commerce, a digital empire valued at over $2 billion. That while Jessica climbed the corporate ladder, I built a revolution in e-commerce. That the few dollars I made could buy their precious Miller and Brooks 10 times over. But they'd find out soon enough. The next few weeks were a symphony of chaos at Miller and Brooks. I watched from afar as their stock continued to plummet. Jessica's calls became more frequent, each one more desperate than the last. Dad, they're talking about major cuts, she said during Sunday dinner, her perfect composure cracking. The board is meeting with some mystery buyer next week. Nobody knows what's happening. Dad patted her hand. It'll be fine, princess. You're too valuable to lose. I picked at my food, hiding my smile. The mystery buyer. If only they knew. Emma, are you even listening? Mom's sharp voice pulled me back. Your sister is going through a crisis. Oh, I'm listening, I said. Very carefully. Jessica shot me an irritated look. Right, because you understand corporate takeovers from your online shopping experience. I set down my fork. Actually, I understand quite a bit about acquisitions. Would you like me to explain how they work? Don't patronize me, she snapped, just because you read some articles. The buyer, I interrupted, will probably start by acquiring controlling shares through a series of shell companies. Then they'll call a board meeting to announce the restructuring. Sound familiar? Jessica's face paled slightly. How did you? Just a guess, I shrugged, standing up. Good luck with the meeting next week. I hear the new owner has some interesting plans. I left them sitting there, confusion etched on their faces. 3 days later, my phone exploded with notifications. The announcement had been made. Jessica's call came first. They sold us. Some tech company called NextGen Commerce just bought Miller and Brooks. My job, everything Dad built, it's all going to change. I let her rant, listening to the panic in her voice. The mighty Jessica, finally facing something she couldn't control. That's terrible, I said, keeping my voice neutral. When do you meet the new owner? Tomorrow. Some hotshot CEO who probably doesn't understand our business model. God, Emma, what am I going to do? I'm sure you'll figure it out, I replied. After all, you're the professional. Right? The boardroom looked exactly as I remembered it from my brief stint at Miller and Brooks years ago. Dark wood, leather chairs, the smell of power and privilege. I sat at the head of the table, watching through the glass wall as the executives filed in. Jessica entered last, her face tight with worry. She didn't even glance in my direction, probably assuming I was someone's assistant. Typical. The board chairman cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Emma Carter, CEO of NextGen Commerce and our new owner. The silence was deafening. Jessica's head snapped up, her eyes widening in shock as she finally recognized me. Dad, sitting in as a shareholder, dropped his pen. Hello everyone, I said, standing up. Let's talk about the future of Miller and Brooks. Jessica's face went through a range of emotions. Shock, confusion, anger, fear. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. As you all know, I continued, Miller and Brooks has been struggling to adapt to the digital age. That's where NextGen comes in. We're going to revolutionize your business model. The next hour was a blur of presentations, questions, and strategic plans. Throughout it all, Jessica sat frozen, watching her perfect world reshape itself around her. After the meeting, she cornered me in the hallway. How? She demanded. How is this possible? I smiled, remembering all the times she'd laughed at my little online job. You never asked what I actually did, I said, too busy assuming I was a failure. NextGen Commerce handles digital infrastructure for over 60% of online retailers globally. We're worth more than Miller and Brooks could ever be. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? Besides, you made it clear you didn't need help from someone who couldn't handle the corporate world. She flinched, recognizing her own words. So this is revenge? You bought the company to humiliate me? No, Jessica. I bought the company because it's a good investment with the right leadership. Your methods are outdated. Your technology is ancient. You're losing clients because you refuse to adapt. And I suppose you're firing me? Her voice was small, nothing like the confident sister who had mocked me for years. Actually, I said, I'm offering you a chance to learn, to grow, to understand that success doesn't always wear a designer suit and sit in a corner office. What does that mean? It means you have two choices. You can resign, find another company stuck in the past. Or you can stay, learn how modern business really works, and help build something revolutionary. She stared at me, really seeing me for the first time in years. You're serious. Completely. But understand this, if you stay, you work for me. No more family dynamics in the office. No more assumptions about what success looks like. Think you can handle that? The drive home was surreal. I could still see Jessica's face as she realized everything she thought she knew about me was wrong, as she understood that her little sister now controlled her future. My phone buzzed, Mom calling, probably to demand explanations, to twist this into another family drama. I let it go to voicemail. Tonight, I didn't need their validation. I didn't need their approval or understanding. I had built something extraordinary while they weren't looking, and now they had no choice but to see it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, teaching Jessica humility, modernizing a stubborn company, dealing with the family fallout. But for now, I savored the silence, remembering Jessica's words at that family dinner. Stick to your little online job. I wondered if she was still laughing. The next few weeks were a masterclass in watching pride crumble. Jessica showed up to work each day, her designer outfits and perfect makeup like armor against the new reality. But I could see the cracks forming. You want me to what? She asked, staring at me across my new office, her old office. Shadow our junior developers for a week, I repeated calmly. Learn how our systems actually work. Understand the technology you've been dismissing. I'm the VP of operations, she protested. I can't just sit with the it people. I leaned back in my chair. Not anymore. As of today, you're special projects coordinator. Think of it as a learning opportunity. Her face flushed red. You're demoting me? I'm teaching you. There's a difference. She stood up, hands trembling. Dad won't stand for this. The board. The board works for me now, I cut in. And Dad's shares? They're worth a quarter of what they were last year. He doesn't have the influence you think he does. The mention of money made her flinch. Our father's retirement fund had taken a massive hit with Miller and Brooks' decline. Another fact they conveniently ignored while mocking my career choices. Fine, she snapped. But this feels personal. Everything feels personal when you're used to being untouchable. The family dinners became battlegrounds of silent tension. Mom tried to maintain normalcy, chattering about neighborhood gossip while Dad pushed his food around his plate. Jessica barely showed up anymore. Your sister's having a hard time, Mom said one Sunday, her voice sharp with accusation. Was it necessary to humiliate her like this? I set down my fork. Interesting. When she mocked my career for 5 years, that wasn't humiliation. That was different. She was trying to help you find a real path. And now I'm helping her find one. Funny how perspective works. Dad cleared his throat. The board is concerned about your methods, restructuring the entire operations department. The board, I interrupted, is thrilled with our first quarter projections. Stocks up 15% since the takeover. Any other concerns about my methods? He fell silent, but I caught the flash of recognition in his eyes. The same language, the same confidence he used all those years when dismissing my ideas. My phone buzzed. A message from Jessica. You need to see this. The development team found something. I excused myself, ignoring Mom's protests about family time. Some things were more important than maintaining their comfortable illusions. At the office, Jessica was waiting with the tech team. Her usual perfect hair was messy, like she'd been running her hands through it for hours. Show her, she told the lead developer. What they found was staggering. Evidence of systematic data manipulation going back years. Client numbers inflated, losses hidden, profits exaggerated. The perfect image of Miller and Brooks had been built on digital quicksand. Who had access to these systems? I asked, already suspecting the answer. Jessica's voice was quiet. Dad, when he was senior partner. And me. I looked at her, seeing not the arrogant sister who'd mocked me, but someone finally facing reality. Did you know? She shook her head. I suspected. But I didn't want to know. It was easier to believe in the perfect story. Like it was easier to believe I was a failure. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw real shame there. I'm sorry, Emma, for everything. The words hung between us, heavy with years of rivalry and resentment. But there was something else too, a chance for change. Help me fix this, I said. Show me you can be more than what Dad built. She straightened up, and I saw a glimpse of the sister I used to know, before success and family expectations had twisted her. Where do we start? From the ground up, just like I did with NextGen. As we worked late into the night, piecing together the extent of the deception, I realized something. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reconstruction, of a company, of a relationship, of a truth too long buried under designer suits and family myths. The real work was just beginning. The headlines broke on a Tuesday morning. Miller and Brooks under investigation. Years of financial discrepancies revealed. I watched from my office as chaos erupted across the building. Dad burst in without knocking, his face ashen. What have you done? What you should have done years ago, I replied, sliding the financial report across my desk. We found everything, Dad. Every manipulated number, every hidden loss. He slumped into the chair, suddenly looking older than his years. You don't understand. I built this company. You built a house of cards. I cut in. And now it's time to face the consequences. Jessica appeared in the doorway, holding a stack of documents. She'd spent the last week working directly with the forensic accountants, proving she could be more than just a figurehead. The SEC wants our complete records by Friday, she said, her voice professional, detached. No longer Daddy's little princess, but an executive facing reality. Dad turned to her, desperation in his eyes. Jessica, princess, you can't be part of this. Everything I did was for you, for your future. No, she replied, and I heard the steel in her voice. You did it for yourself, for your legacy. And you taught me to be just like you, caring more about appearances than truth. He stood up, anger replacing shock. You ungrateful. I gave you everything. You gave us lies, I said quietly. And now we're choosing truth. The next few hours were a blur of lawyers, statements, and decisions. Dad left the building for the last time, escorted by security. Mom called 17 times. I let them all go to voicemail. Late that night, Jessica and I sat in my office, surrounded by the wreckage of our father's legacy. Remember when we were kids? She asked, staring out at the city lights. How we used to play office, pretending to run Dad's company together. I smiled faintly. Before competition and expectations got in the way. I was horrible to you, she said suddenly. All those years, making fun of your dreams, treating you like you were beneath me. I was so scared of not being perfect, of not living up to his image. And now, she turned to me, her eyes clear. Now I'm learning what real success looks like. It's not about corner offices or designer suits. It's about building something real. Even if it means tearing down everything you thought you knew. Especially then. We worked through the night, preparing for the storm we knew was coming. The next morning, the board called an emergency meeting. I stood before them, Jessica at my side, and laid out our plan. Complete transparency, full cooperation with investigators, and a total restructuring of the company's financial systems. This will destroy us, one board member protested. No, I corrected. This will save us. Next-gen's technology combined with honest business practices, that's the future. You can either be part of it or step aside. They voted unanimously to proceed with our plan. Sometimes survival instincts outweigh pride. The family fallout was exactly what I expected. Mom showed up at my apartment, tears and accusations ready. How could you do this to your father? To this family? How could he do this to his company? To his daughters? I countered. He taught us that image was everything. That success meant looking perfect no matter what. Well, guess what? Real success comes from building something honest. Your sister is doing exactly what she should. I interrupted. Learning, growing, becoming someone she can be proud of. Mom fell silent, really looking at me, perhaps for the first time in years. You've changed, she said finally. No, Mom, I'm exactly who I've always been. You're just finally seeing me. The next few weeks were intense. Jessica threw herself into learning everything about digital commerce, working alongside the teams she once dismissed. She had a natural talent for it, once she let go of her preconceptions. You know what's funny? She said one evening as we reviewed implementation plans. I spent years thinking I was protecting Dad's legacy. But you're the one who really understood business, seeing where it was going, not where it had been. Better late than never, I smiled. We were interrupted by breaking news on my phone. Dad had agreed to cooperate with investigators, admitting to years of financial manipulation. Jessica read the alert over my shoulder, her hand trembling slightly. It's really over, isn't it? Everything he built, everything we thought we knew. No, I said, turning to face her. It's just beginning. We're building something better. Together. She smiled, a real smile, without the polished perfection she used to hide behind. Partners? Partners. As we turned back to our work, I realized something profound had shifted. The sister who had once mocked my little online job was now my strongest ally in building something revolutionary. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's reconstruction. Building something so much better that the old wounds stop mattering. The real work was just beginning. But for the first time in years, I wasn't doing it alone. 1 year later, I stood at the podium during Miller and Brooks' No MB Digital Solutions annual shareholders meeting. The transformation was complete, and the numbers spoke for themselves. Stock up 150%, client satisfaction at record highs, and a corporate culture built on transparency rather than illusion. Jessica sat in the front row, dressed in a simple blazer instead of her once signature designer suits. She had earned her place as Chief Innovation Officer, not through family connections, but through a genuine understanding of our digital transformation. A year ago, I began this company stood at a crossroads. Today, we're not just surviving, we're leading the future of digital commerce. The applause was genuine, not the polite golf claps of old board meetings. These people believed in what we'd built because they could see the real results. After the meeting, Jessica and I headed to our usual spot, a small coffee shop far from the corporate towers where we once played power games. Did you see the latest? She asked, sliding her tablet across the table. Dad's photo was on the screen, next to a headline about his reduced sentence due to cooperation. How's Mom taking it? I asked. Better than expected. She's finally seeing a therapist, dealing with her own enabling tendencies. She asked about you. I stirred my coffee. And? She's proud of you, Em. Really proud. She just doesn't know how to say it yet. The simple acknowledgement meant more than I expected, but not for the reasons it once would have. I no longer needed their approval. I learned to be proud of myself. You know what I realized? Jessica said, looking out at the bustling street. We spent so many years competing for Dad's version of success that we forgot to define it for ourselves. I nodded. And now? Now I understand what you knew all along. Success isn't about titles or appearances. It's about building something meaningful. My phone buzzed. A message from our lead developer about a breakthrough in our new platform. Jessica's eyes lit up when I showed her. Want to head back and see it in action? She asked, already standing. Lead the way, Chief Innovation Officer. We walked back to the office, discussing ideas and possibilities. No longer sisters trying to outdo each other, but partners building something revolutionary. The old Miller and Brooks building looked different now, walls of glass and open spaces replacing the dark wood and closed doors. Developers and executives worked side by side, the rigid hierarchy of the past replaced by collaboration. Remember when you first offered to help with bills? Jessica said as we rode the elevator. I laughed at you. And now? She smiled. Now I thank God you didn't listen to me. You saved more than the company, Emma. You saved me from becoming someone I wouldn't have liked very much. We reached my office, still her old office, but transformed like everything else. The view of the city remained, but now it represented possibility rather than power. We're not done yet, I said, pulling at the latest project plans. There's still so much to build. Good, Jessica replied, pulling up a chair, because I'm not going anywhere. As we dove into work, I thought about how sometimes the happiest endings don't come from revenge or triumph, but from transformation, from breaking down walls instead of building them higher. My sister had once laughed at my offer to help. Now we were helping each other build something neither of us could have created alone. That's the thing about family dynamics. They can destroy you or define you. But sometimes, if you're brave enough to break the pattern, they can transform into something better than you ever imagined. And that's worth more than any revenge could ever be.